Well, hello everybody and welcome. Thanks for watching. Today's topic comes from a question that was asked on Twitter. The question was, who was the nicest celebrity that you ever met? So let's go. What I did was, I couldn't settle on one that was nice. So what I did was I chose three from three different areas in life, right? One person from music, one person from Hollywood movies, and one person from sports, all celebrities. And also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw in a little bit of a bonus of the biggest celebrity that I met that wasn't very nice. There's a lot of those stories around, right? A lot of people meet jerks. And well, I guess in this case, it was a sort of a meeting of a jerk for me. And I'll explain that out to you in a minute. But let's start with a nice meeting, right? First up was my celebrity that I met from Hollywood movies, and that was Martin Sheen. How did I come to bump into him? This was the early 90s, and I was going to a march in downtown LA, a march against the Iraq War. And we're walking to the march starting point, to the assembly point, and it's going to start off, and then they were marching from some point downtown LA, and then the end of the march was at City Hall. And so we're walking, and we come to a red light. We're walking on the sidewalk. We come to a red light and stop. And who's at the red light waiting there? Martin Sheen. I'm like, whoa, and of course, hey, hi, hey, Martin Sheen, big fan, and that kind of thing, the usual. What are you doing here, And well, of course, he's telling us that he's there to march against the war. Light turns green, we continue walking. And we walked for about a long downtown city block, side by side, just talking about the politics of the day, the politics of the march, and a couple of other little assorted small talk topics. At the end of the next block, the light was green, and I just kind of I didn't want Martin Sheen to feel like I was trying to stretch it out, or I was going to try to hang out with him and be his buddy or something like that. So when we got to the next corner, I just kind of said, all right, man, nice meeting you, and walked off and kind of separated so he could have his own thing to himself. The bonus at the end of that was when the march was over at City Hall, the gathering, they had speakers, right? Well, who comes out to speak at that march but Martin Sheen? And so he even gave a talk that day. And that's how humble he was. He didn't say anything about stick around at the end of the march, I'm going to be giving a talk or something like that. No, he didn't even bring it up. And I was totally surprised that he was there and giving a talk at the end of the march. So, okay. Celebrity number one, Martin Sheen. Nice celebrity number one, Martin Sheen. How about nice celebrity number two from the world of sports? Stu Nahan. Now, if you know LA sports anytime around the 80s, or if you know Fast Times at Ridgemont High, not a lot of people know that Stu Nahan was an ex-hockey player who then went on to be a sportscaster here in LA. Long time local sportscaster here in LA, very familiar to the LA area. But if you don't know him from that, you may remember seeing Stu Nahan in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, when Jess Spicoli, the surfer character, has his dream. And he's dreaming that he's won the surfing championships of the world. And who's interviewing him? Stu Nahan. That's the guy that I met. How did I come to meet Stu? Well, I won a radio contest from the Dodgers radio station to win tickets and a breakfast at home plate at Dodger Stadium on opening day. I don't recall exactly what year this was, but it was somewhere around the late 80s or something like that. So I won. Oh, as a matter of fact, the contest was called Stump the Stew. It was a regular contest they used to have all the time, and you called up the radio station and you got in, and if you had a trivia question that could stump Stu Nahan, then you won whatever prize they were giving away. I happened to call and I happened to win that day, and what they were giving away was that opening day package. I stumped Stu Nahan and I won. And it was just absolutely the greatest opening day that I ever went to. Started out, had to report to Dodger Stadium like something like 6 a.m. or whatever, and showed up, and it was great. They gave me a package of they gave me one of those Dodger jacket, the satin, old blue satin Dodger jackets that they wore back in the 80s. Got one of those. I got special commemorative opening day ticket, all kinds of other little assorted Dodger knickknacks, like in a VIP bag with stuff. Great stuff, fantastic. But of course, the greatest thing was going to be, and it was advertised, in case I forgot to mention it, it was advertised as breakfast with Tommy Lasorda at home plate. It wasn't exactly on home plate, but it was on the infield. It was down the third baseline, and they had big, a couple of long tables, and it was kind of like a buffet style they had set up out there. And me and a guest, and we went, loaded up our plates, and we're sitting eating there, and Tommy Lasorda came over and met us. It was something like, 7 a.m. maybe by that point, 7:30 a.m. Tommy in full uniform, and he came out, shook my hand, said hello, and so on, and he hung around for a few minutes and talked, and that was really great. But I didn't necessarily count him as the nicest celebrity that I met in sports because, Tommy gave the old PR shtick that he probably does 100 times a day with everybody. It was cool. It was great. Don't get me wrong, but he was in, bang, 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 and he was out. And of course, he doesn't have to hang around. It's opening day. He's got things to do. He's a busy man. So I totally understand that. So nothing against Tommy. That was cool anyway. But the nice person that I met was Stu Nahan. Of course, he's there because I won his contest, Stump the Stew, and he came, and I always joke, of course he was there because it was free breakfast, and he filled his plate and he sat at the table with us, and he stayed there a long time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so. I don't know how long it was, long enough to very casually eat and have a very nice conversation, just talking to Stu Nahan. Talking to him about what it's like being a sportscaster. I asked him a lot of questions about his hockey days, which he was happy to talk about, and what it was like to be a professional hockey player. And he was just the nicest, most genuine, sincere person that, I ever met in the world of sports. So he gets that win from me. And once again, this is what I'm really basing that nicest person celebrity that you ever met is I'm basing it on the sincerity that I caught from the person, And now, before we get to my final nice celebrity that I met, let's throw in that not so nice. So this comes from, this is probably also the early 80s as well. I remembered it because I remember this every time the Olympics come around. We recently had the Olympics, so it brought up the memory of the time that I met gold medal U.S. Olympic champion celebrity Carl Lewis. Remember Carl Lewis? He was a big deal. What happened? Well, this was in my partying days, all right? And so I was partying with a friend of mine from work. He says, hey, have you ever been to a salt and pepper club? Maybe you know what that is. I had no idea. I said, man, I don't know what that is. Well, it turns out what a salt and pepper club is, at least back in those days, what it is it's a club where black guys and black gals go to mix and mingle and meet non-blacks, white people, and Chicanos, of course, and get that mix going, right? And so, wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, let's go. So we went, and this was it was a club off the 57 freeway out in Brea. Excuse me, I got an airplane overhead. I'm in the flight path. All right, so we go to this club. I can't remember the name of it, but we're in separate cars. My buddy Mike, we used to work together, and he parked his car separate from me, and I parked my car. I get out of my car, and I walk over to where Mike is, and Mike is about to get jumped by three black dudes. And you can tell, I'm walking over there, and you can tell he's trying to talk himself out of being in a fight with these guys. And they are talking very interested in having a fight with my buddy Mike. Had no idea who this was, but I knew that was my friend. He was outnumbered, and there was some guys that were looking to beat him up. So I went, once again, this was back in my partying days, and I used to be a little while back there. I went back to my car. I grabbed a crowbar because I used to drive everywhere with a crowbar under my seat back then. And I came back, and Mike is facing me. The guys that want to fight him are Carl Lewis. It turns out it was Carl Lewis and his friends. And they have their backs to me, and I'm coming from behind them. And I said something corny, like a corny Hollywood line. I forget exactly what it was, but I said something like, hey, let's see how you guys are when the odds are even. They turn around and look at me, and I'm standing there holding a crowbar, and I see who it is. I realize that's freaking Carl Lewis. And they immediately, lucky for us, because who really wants to fight, right? But they immediately just backed off and said, whoa, 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 it's cool, and blah, 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 and backed off and split, and everything ended. And I was talking to my buddy Mike, and I was like, well, what? That's Carl Lewis. Are you sure? Yeah. How are we sure? Because it turned out the whole thing started because my buddy Mike parked his car next to Carl Lewis's car, which was like a little Porsche or something, like a little sports car. And he opened his car door, bang, hit the car. And that's how that took off. And they were going to beat up my friend over that. And also, what proved to us that it was him was because he also had personalized license plates. They said something like Sprinter Gold, something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was Sprint Gold or Sprinter Gold or something like that. We were like, whoa, look at the license plate. That was frickin' Carl Lewis. So that was my not very nice celebrity encounter. Now, I didn't have a conversation with him, but that just happened to pop up in my mind because we recently had the Olympics, and I thought I would share it with you. You might find it interesting. I'm not proud of it. I was back in my days, as I say, I was a little bit wild, I was a little bit crazy, and today I would probably handle it a lot different, but back then that was me. Final celebrity meeting that I had, nicest celebrity that I ever met, and maybe all the way down, because as far as I'm concerned, even though Martin Sheen is a big movie star, and even though Stu Nahan is a passed away. Even though Stu Nahan was a big local sports celebrity, and everybody knew these people, they weren't like heroes to me. This person that wins the nicest celebrity is one of my music heroes. Who is it? I'm wearing the t-shirt of Social Distortion in his honor. The lead singer, Mike Ness, the lead singer of Social Distortion. And how did I come to meet him? I had a student, Japanese student, exchange student from Japan that was learning English. I taught English for a very long time. And this student, we were good friends, and he was a rock and roller and a fantastic guitar player. And he got himself hooked up with a band here in the United States and was playing. As a matter of fact, that poster that I have here in the back where the Weirdos are playing, down at the bottom, one of the other bands that's playing is Plastic Letters, which was the name of the band that my friend was in. But this story isn't about my friend. I'm really just telling you how I came to bump into Mike Ness. But he invited me to one of his gigs. And so I went. And it was out in Hollywood. It was a club out in Hollywood. There was like 3 bands playing. My student, he was playing in the opening band, and the headliner band was Social Distortion. I was so surprised, right? So I go. I was surprised that they were on the marquee. I was surprised they were on the ticket as well. I was really just going to, watch my student, support my student playing his band. So I go, and I'm that kind of guy that always wants to be up close at the show. I love to be up, up front. And I was wearing a Rolling Stones t-shirt that night. And so the show goes on. I enjoy it and everything. And I'm at the bar in the club, sitting at bar side, because I went by myself this night. Excuse me. So I'm sitting at the bar by myself, and I'm having a beer at the bar. And who comes to sit next to me at the bar but Mike Ness himself? And he strikes up a conversation with me. He says, "Hey, man." He says, "How about that Rolling Stones t-shirt?" He says, "I saw you out there in the crowd." He says, "I noticed you with the Rolling Stones t-shirt. I just want you to know that I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan myself." And he said, "As a matter of fact, the reason why your shirt caught my eye was because he tells me, the very first rock and roll t-shirt I ever had was a homemade, that he made himself, a homemade Rolling Stones t-shirt. And that t-shirt was the reason why he noticed me and came up and struck up a conversation with me at the bar. He ordered a beer, and he sat there, and we sat and talked for, again, how long does it take to drink a beer? I don't know, 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. We had a very, very nice conversation about music and the Stones and growing up, him being from Orange County and me being from LA. And it was just, it was magic. I mean, I could barely hold it in, because I met a rock and roll punk rock god that I already, was, enamored by. And so I had a great conversation with Mike Ness. Can't even believe it, So there you go. 3 celebrities that I met. Very, very nice celebrities. And one not so nice encounter. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the stories. I will see you next time. Peace.